It's the Here to Record. It's the Here to Record. It's the Here to Record live show.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live stream here on the Here to Record YouTube channel. Nice to have you all here with me on this fine day. So, we're going to talk a lot about Rundown Studio today, that's for sure. And your questions, if you have any, throw them in the chat as we go along, or we can chat about other things too. There's no problem at all. Happy to have any sort of questions pop in about all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah. So let me get my things together here and see what's happening. Intro of the show. I just wanted to chat and say hello to you folks in the crowd. So nice to have you all here. Music is grooving. Thanks for that, Eric. Nice to see you once again. And hello from Waterford, Ireland. Not so sunny London, and we have from Canada as well. Nicholas calling in. What kind of show is this? Saying hello from Sweden. And Eric, nice to have you here as always. And Randy and a few others I showed in the early section of the show there. Nice to see you all. And have you all here saying hello and all that good stuff. Yeah, so like I said, Rundown Studio specifically today, but you know, we don't know where things will lead whenever the old live stream kicks off, and see how things go. All right, so what's happening? I have a few bits and pieces here, and this is, again, yes, I'm going to talk about Rundown Studio, what it is and all that stuff, but we can dig into, you know, ways of using it rather than me sell it in any sense. I'm just hoping to show off some of the fun features that we have in store, so that's really the plan. All right, I have it open on my computer here, and in case you don't know what Rundown Studio is, that's no problem, but it's a tool made by myself and Lucas from Stage Timer, and we also have another developer working for us as well, Jorge, and the three of us basically work on this and have done for a year now. But about 7 months ago, I posted a video on the channel here talking about Rundown Studio, giving you an introduction to what it is, and I figured since it's been, 7 months since I made that video and released it, it was about time that I talked about Rundown Studio in all its glory and what it can do and things that we've added to it since then as well. So, what is it? It's a run of show tool, basically, simple as that. And the idea behind it, let me just take my other stuff over to the other screen here so I can see all my bits. The idea behind it is that you build a run of show, and then, as your show steps through, you just go through it and throw in all your cues, throw in all your content, and as you can see here, we have a little sample setup where you can let me just zoom in a little bit. Put in all of your timings and just jump through as your show goes through. Sort of a replacement for Excel, which is a typical tool people have been using for this kind of thing before, but we wanted something a bit more bespoke. I have too many windows open. 1 second. And I have it here. I'm actually going to run it for this show. So my plan was to talk you through what is Rundown Studio for 1 minute, and now I've already gone over by a full minute. But here you can see all my cues in this particular rundown that I created, right? And I've set up some timings, and some of them went slightly over and some of them went slightly under. And now I'm on this current queue here. And what I should be doing is going to the next queue and telling you all about what groups and sub-queues are. So that's what I have here ahead of today's show, a little list of things that we're going to explore that have been added in the last few months. And what I'm also doing is running this I'm linking Companion to Rundown Studio as well, so I'll be using that throughout my my show to show you what's going on. All right, let me go to the next section. I've got 3 minutes now to tell you about groups and sub queues. So the idea here being, instead of having all of your queues on top of each other in a line, you can actually have them sort of grouped together, so you can expand and open them up. In fact, in order to show you this off, I'll just scroll down to the bottom here and add a couple of new queues. And what you'd imagine is that, becomes the final Q&A of the show, which we'll get to later. But the idea behind groups and subqueues is that whenever you grab a group and throw it on top of another one, you will create a group here, or grab a queue and throw it to another one, you create a group. And from there, you have now a nice little, expandable and enclosable little group section that you can move around as you see fit. Actually, let me just zoom in just a bit more here just so you can really clearly see it. And yeah, so from there you can, create your queues into little groups and use them that way, which is I find super handy for like sections of a show. Whenever you want to know what is happening in this exact section, that's a nice way to do that. Cool. I still have a minute and a half to talk about groups and queues. I just threw some numbers in there just to see. Oh yeah, and I wanted to bring on air my little at the bottom of the screen there, you can see one of the outputs from Rundown Studio, and I just brought it into the production here so I could keep an eye on what I was up to on today's show. So we'll see. Oh, I don't have enough disk space on my computer to record this live stream, so I just stopped that. And vMix has just given me a little warning there to say there's not enough disk space to record it. Oh well, I can skip the recording and just go for the live stream. If my internet holds up, we shall see. So I have my groups here, and yeah, I can just, drag the queues around within the group if I want. Maybe I can make these a different color just to make that extra clear what's happening here. So in my group, maybe I want to take that back out again and move it out of the group, and now it's no longer part of it. Super handy, and something from the start of Rundown Studio people were asking us for. How can I categorize all my rundown in sections so that I can move things around much faster? So that's a look at that. All right, I think I've done enough on groups. What's next on my list here? I have file uploading and sharing. That's a pretty good one, actually. As you can see there, I pressed the button on the Stream Deck and it's changed to the next item on my agenda here. So let me just throw up one of these video files here that I have. So in fact, I'm just going to take this out of the shot, my little sort of ticker style what's happening, because I know that I know what's happening if I keep an eye on my rundown. I'm going to be showing off the rundown a lot anyway, so it's fine. Cool. Let's see. So I have the ability in what we call the cells here. So you have each of your queues, and then you have columns where you can throw whatever you want into those columns, and of course what I can do here is I can grab a piece of text and change the color of it maybe, so the background now is purple. I can do all sorts of stuff like bold and make them headings and things like that. However, if I have a file on my local computer, what I can do is throw that into the rundown. Now I'm just looking through random stuff in my in my downloads section here. Let's see what I have. Yeah, I have this random shot of me and Jonas from last year, and we were doing a live stream from IBC. So as you can see there, I've just dragged that from my desktop into the rundown. What's quite nice though is it doesn't just work for that kind of stuff. I can also grab like an audio file here. So I have a random. Oh wait, you can see now that it was a random audio file, right? But it's one of the opening songs in the video, I think, that I had added to this live stream. And so by dragging and dropping that into my rundown, then it uploads, and now anyone who wants can and has access to this this rundown can now download that file if they need to, which is quite nice. So in fact, if I head into my invite guests section here and just copy this URL to invite a guest, and then I can open that up on one of my non-logged in incognito windows, and you can see here that the guest can see any files that I drop in there. So this audio file's there, they can click and download it. They can also take a look at this image here. This is an image from a Sunday live stream that Jonas and I never actually did. So it's a live stream that never quite worked out. So you can see here, I could add references for graphics. Maybe I want to show lower thirds during my live stream, and then I can just throw in an example of those up into the rundown. I may also want to add like an audio file like I just did there. So maybe the person running audio, they know what small music bed to play during a walk up on a stage show. Video files, I drop in a few video files. Maybe I have my opening countdown timer music, for example, is one that I would personally pop in there, and that way I can, if I want, I can deliver it to anybody who's running the the VTs or the video playbacks on the team. So it's quite a nice way to sort of share files around the team a little bit. And what's nice is if I decide that this audio file was not the one that I meant to include, then I can easily just jump into the cell. Oh, whoops. I can make changes, of course, in the cell. Oh, I can't do it right now because I'm not logged in. But if I go back out to here, I can jump back into the cell again, delete it. Now it's gone from everybody who is accessing the rundown, and I can drop in a new audio file if I want to, and it lets me really quickly move things around computers. If I launch the same rundown on multiple computers, I can move those files around quite nicely. And we accept all sorts of files, which is pretty handy. There's an upload limit in there just to, we're not expecting people to upload 100 gigabytes of a video file. Probably not the right tool for that purpose, but it'll work for lots of video files if you have them. I saw a question come in, but I'm going to save the questions just until my nice little Q&A break you can see coming up in 1, 2, 3 Qs. I'll get there to the Q&A. But if you have them as I go along, do feel free to drop them in here. So that's file sharing and uploading, and we wanted to make it easy as possible. So on your desktop, just click, drag the image in there and drop it, or file or document. Works nicely with like Excel files and CSV files and all that kind of stuff too, which is quite nice. So it means that you can just easily pass them along to your team, which brings us to the next thing we should talk about, which is the ability to then use that content and show it to other people outside of the rundown. So maybe there's folks who want to print out a copy. Can you believe it in this day and age? But it happens. People want to print out PDFs, or they maybe just want to export a copy of the rundown just so they have it somewhere local. And then if the internet falls apart, which that happens sometimes, and you still want to have your show, then you have a PDF or possibly a CSV version of your whole rundown, which you can do now. A PDF was available whenever I made that launch video 7 months ago, but it's gotten some improvements since then. Since now that you can actually add images, of course, and files, then you'll find all those in the PDF. So here you see I just downloaded the PDF of this show, and I can see the image here. And what's nice is I can actually click through and go straight to that image that we have stored on our side as well. So that way you have access to it if you need it, which is quite nice. But you can also add PDFs, like I said a minute ago, and documents and stuff, and those can't really show up inside another PDF. So what we do instead then is just have a nice little link, a file name, and then a link, and that if you have the PDF on the computer still, you can click on the link, open up that PDF, and still view it, and same for the files and all that stuff. Obviously, if you've got the printed version, then we haven't quite figured out a way of clicking the paper and opening up the PDF. Maybe someday we'll figure that out. Anyway, export as CSV is another option here, and I'm just going to download this CSV. Now, I haven't actually downloaded a CSV on this particular computer before, so I don't think I have any decent way of reading it outside of what you can see here, which is the beautiful CSV file downloaded onto my computer. But I don't think I need to show anything off very specifically about CSV, because if you know how to take it from there, then you can move it into whatever tool you want. For example, you could drop it into like a Google Drive. Let me see, if I just open up a random Google Drive document here and just open up a new sheet. I'm just doing it off screen here, just in case some random, bits and bobs pop up on the old drive. So I have a random sheet here, and I can import that CSV file right into this document here. And let's see, why didn't that work? Where are you? Import. There it is. So if I want to upload a file, I managed to show all my documents anyway. We'll see what happens. So I'm just going to drag in that CSV file. Let's just import it. I don't know exactly how it was going to come in. Hello? Did it work? Clearly not. Ah, there we go. I just wasn't patient enough. So this is the same file that I just exported out of Rundown Studio and then imported in here to a CSV. Now, it doesn't look as nice whenever you just randomly import a CSV file, but that's kind of a part of the, shall we say, charm of the format. Things are stretched over and all that stuff, but that's the idea. With CSV, you get all the data, none of the, the goodies that come with it. But what you do get is, like I said, a nice little link here to the image so that you can use this whenever you want in some other system. In fact, we added this feature because a user specifically said that the venues that they typically work with have their own system for the catering staff and for all that good stuff. And what they wanted to do was find some sort of way of importing the rundown data into their tool so that you can tell, what's going to happen and when's their breaks. So this CSV will be really nice for them to do that. I've just brought my rundown back online again here because you can see I'm now running over again on this show. And in fact, another way that I can tell that I'm running over on the show, or on that queue at least, is because I have my Stream Deck in front of me here. Stream Deck Plus, I think it's called, this one. Yes, it is. Which has the knobs on it. I'm not using those right now, but it has all these buttons, of course, as Stream Decks tend to have. And you can see here that the bottom screen is flashing quite prominently at me right now. And that flashing corresponds to the over flashing on the rundown here. So you can see, if I can get it right there, in both cases I'm running over right now, so it's flashing pretty heavy at me, which reminds me to go to the next section of the show, and then we'll take a nice little Q&A break after that. I can calm down talking for a minute. If I go to the next one, I'm going to talk about the companion module that we added in the last 4 or 5 months, which has been really nice to have in there and quite fun to play around with. I'm not going to go through all the steps of setting it up because I know many people on the channel here have plenty of experience with Companion, and if you don't, then you're always welcome to ask in the Discord or just over email how things work. But that said, I have my Companion module or instance set up here, and you can just, as always, whenever you want to, add a new Rundown Studio connection, and then that will give you the Rundown Studio connection. Makes sense. And in there, I have added my Rundown ID, which is specifically the ID that I'm interacting with today. You can't quite see it on the screen there, but it's the same ID in the URL of the Rundown that I'm using for this production. I'm calling my live show a production today. And then in order to keep things nice and secure, you also need an API key in order to interact with a random rundown. Otherwise, you would just get the ID, and it doesn't seem so right. So if I go back out to my dashboard here, into my API section, you can see here I have my API key, and I specifically have made these things hidden because I knew I would show these off on live stream someday. So the API key is hidden, although I might have accidentally shown it earlier before I zoomed in on this screen, but I'll change it later. That's fine. So connection is set up, and then over on my buttons section here, you can see I have a few buttons on the page. And I love this. I love the feedbacks and the presets that we've thrown in there. So you can see on the top here, I have the current queue's title, the current queue's time left, and the current queue's duration. And then next to that, I can see what's next up. The next queue's title. I can see the next queue's duration, which I actually have set to 0. I have a little action button here, which goes to the next queue, which is something I've been pressing constantly throughout this show already. And then I have 4 of the last 5-second flashing countdown here. Let me just go back to the presets, and you can see that I have, like I said, the current queue ones, the next queue ones. This blank one here is like the subtitle of each queue. For every queue we have a title and we have a subtitle, and sometimes it's not provided, so that's why it's blank. And then we have information about the rundown in general, like its title and status and all that stuff. The transport controls, which is what I'm using today to advance to the next one, but you can also use the play and the pause as well. And if I go back again, we have the visual progress. And in here is the last 5 seconds of progress. Now, because I'm using the Stream Deck Plus, which I'll bring back into my shot again here, I only have those 4 buttons, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I skipped the 5th flashy light for the sake of, I didn't want to put it on a different line. That would be a bit strange. But so that's a sort of a look at the companion as it stands right now. Though, we have a few funky ideas of things we want to add in there to get more data out of the rundown into companion. But I think it basically has a nice, initial structure of everything you would need to see what's happening right now, what's happening next, keep an eye on the times, and then additionally, you can, go to the next queue. I think that's the main action, really. The main one that I wanted to include it in there is like, go to the next queue. That seems pretty basic and important. What else do we have? We have some variables, of course, and these are very similar, of course, to the presets that I just showed off there. But at least you have all of these options if you want to use them for anything. So going from top to bottom, well, I don't have to go through them all, but we have the current queue duration in a multiple format. So you have like the long or minute, second one, then you have minute, second, and then milliseconds if you want to use that, or seconds to do other displays and calculations of things that you might want to do. Remember here that the idea behind our companion module, but also our sort of API in general, is the two go hand in hand. So you can always go into our website, check out the HTTP API or the WebSocket API, and in these you can get really, fine details about the rundown and the controlling of that rundown as well. So that's why all that data is in here, and then it has also been used as part of creating this companion rundown. So if you want to get a bit more advanced with it, their option is there with the API. But what we've basically done is made it a bit easier with the modules. And in here you can see all the elapsed times. So this is the current queue that's running. So it was 6 minutes and it's ran for 5 minutes and 15 seconds. And then going further down, we have the other variations of that same, current queue time left. Basically everything you could possibly need to run your show. Or well, at least many of the things you need to run your show. That's what we have in there. And I'm quite happy with all that, having it in place and using it. I actually quite like the idea of like a very simple, since the tool is completely web-based, a very simple module like this is quite nice. So there's only a few API calls that we've opened up at this current time. And then a lot of what you'll do in your show planning is building it in the tool here. That's where a lot of this stuff happens. You can see 5 seconds are counting down now. If I go back into my buttons, you can see these are all flashing red, telling me that it's time to move on to the next queue. So I shall do that by pressing the button on the Stream Deck. What was next? Yes, the Q&A. So you can see instantly on the Q&A, it started counting up, and that's because I set a 0 second duration for this one, because I had no idea if I had any questions at this point in the show. And if I didn't have any, then I could just, skip ahead to the next thing. But I think I saw 1 or 2 come in as I talked there. Yes, Eric here saying vMix is no more disk space. Yeah, it was complaining. I wish it would tell me in vMix whenever I start recording. It would be nice to say like, you have enough space to record for the next X amount of minutes based on the way you're recording. What a shame. Nicholas here. Hello. Is it possible to change the font and font color? It is not possible to set a custom font at this time. We have that on our list for the outputs, which I will get to in a minute. But the font color in Rundown Studio is baked in. We have a bunch of options basically that we have added in there, and you can see that they're quite light. What we've basically tried our best to do is set colors in a way that will work for many situations. That's kind of the idea. So on a queue level, you can set these sort of darker colors, and then on a background of a piece of text, you can set these sort of medium colors, and then on actual text colors, you can set these light colors. I've said colors a lot now. So the idea there being that the darkest colors or the darkest tones are really at the back, and then there's mediums in front of that, and then there's lights in front of that. That way we can ensure that you never are able to set a text that is unreadable on a background. But we kind of are slightly opening these things up so people can, explore them a little. We don't want to be too restrictive or anything. We just have had an idea about a good way to hopefully get that nice balance in there. So thank you for the question. I know you have asked that from me for a while ago. Here's a question from Thanuthung F161. Can we duplicate some of the same parts in one show? We have a big piece of work in the works at the minute for heavy duplication and moving of graphics. So right now the best thing you can do is not even duplicate a group just yet. At this point you can basically just duplicate a queue. So we have that pretty high on the to-do list of ways to grab a bunch of queues, delete them, duplicate them, move them around. So not currently possible just yet, but working on it. And Randy here says QR code for clicking on the paper copy. Yeah, that's true. You could technically visit a link on a paper copy of the rundown if it had a QR code in it. I'll give you that. That would be the closest you can get to actually clicking on a paper copy. Quite like that idea. I might have to keep that in mind. I'll have to pop that down on a list somewhere. Alrighty, let's go on to the next section. It's definitely not going to take me 1 minute to talk about this. Time zones. So a big thing that was asked from us, from people, is that you typically aren't always living in the same time zone as the show is happening. So you might want to set, or previously, the time zone of the rundown was based on your local computer. So if I'm here in Sweden and then someone's in Ireland, my time zone right now would be 7:30. It would be the current time, and then they would visit the rundown and it would be 6:30 since they are 1 hour behind. However, we added a time zone option to the rundown, so this basically sets the time zone for the entire rundown and everybody viewing it. Doesn't matter what time zone you live in. If you open up the rundown, you will see it in, right now, Europe, Stockholm, CEST, Central European Summertime. So that will be a nice way to work across different continents and countries and see the rundown. And I was trying to time that perfectly, so I'd be done and I could talk about output configurations. That worked out all right, I think. Cool. I'm tired now. Yes, I know this has been all very like go, 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 but I appreciate the questions that have already come in. And if you have any more, then do fire them in there. Oh, and I'll stick around at after the show as well, or not after the show, but at the end of all of this chat, I can also talk about graphics or gear or Dashmaster 2K. I saw someone mention there. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, that's also welcome today, not just rundown studio specifics. Alrighty, output configuration. This is a big one. I'll take a big drink of water for this one. We built a very simple output for people to see what was happening in their rundown, right? So some way of displaying data on a big screen somewhere. That was a very simple thing we built from the early days without many options at all. And what we heard back from people is that they would like a lot more options, which is something we, appreciated that may be a request. So instead of building like a Dashmaster style, modular way approach, what we wanted to do instead was just give people a bunch of access to tools or to data that they could show and hide on outputs if they wanted to. So for example, if you're running a show like I am today and you want to see at the bottom of the screen there, you want to see what's coming up now and what's coming up next, you might want to use something like this, which is a list of the cues that are, ahead of the show. In fact, if I just open up this same window here, you'll see there everything scroll by, and this is the exact same thing as you're seeing at the bottom of the screen throughout the live stream here. You can see a list of all the queues that are scheduled ahead of this queue that's currently running. So I'm going to close that. And what we figured was that would be, in the early days, that would be good enough, so to speak. And then specifically for this type of output, where it's more like a downstage monitor, confidence view for your speaker on stage, you might want to show the current time left on the current queue and maybe the name of the queue. And then some people ask, well, maybe I want to show the time of day as well, or maybe I want to show what's coming up next on the next queue, or so on and so forth. So what we did then was sort of build this advanced configuration option here, which lets you on a one-by-one basis decide if things should or should not be shown. And the ones at the top here are all for the header, and then you have some things for like the overall layout. You have next queue, so you can say like, I want the next queue to be on, and if I open that version, you can see now, compared to what I had opened a second ago, which is this one, you can see now that I can see the next queue. So I can put this down on a monitor, and then you can very clearly see, well, that's what's coming up next. From there, I've got a lot of windows open now, so I'm going to try to be careful and close as many as I can. From there, I can change the background color. Maybe I want it to be, like some sort of hex value that I have for branding purposes, or maybe it's just a transparent background if I want to key it in another piece of software. Or maybe I want to leave it as black, which I will just for now. And then I can also set up the large time of day. So you can see here that that's up there. And if I open that up, now I have this nice downstage monitor view, which just works nicely. It has all the information I need on it. Whenever I jump to the next queue, then that one will, this one will disappear, and the next queue will replace that, and everything will stay exactly where it is right now. I can even crop this. Like, that's what I've done in the bottom of the screen here today, is I've taken one of the outputs and just cropped the top and the bottom and put it into place. But what I could do is, grab this URL here, open it up in a piece of software like OBS or vMix. Let me just see if I can throw in another title. And I can include that in any piece of my production if I want to. I'll skip it for now, but because you can see it here nice and big. But I could grab this time segment by itself and just, add that to the top of the screen. And then I could use that on a production if I wanted to. And we have set this up to be the font that we've chosen. But yes, like Nicholas mentioned earlier, it'd be nice if you could maybe customize that, which is something we've been thinking about and looking into. Oh, I don't know what happened there. I just decided to open up my other tab. Did I press something on my keyboard? Doesn't matter. Or maybe this refreshed. I have no idea. But yeah, that was strange. That knocked me out there. That is a look at the two sort of typical views of. Oh, that's what's happening. Something funky in my my session here. Typical views of the rundown, but what we also got requested for on another show is, well, it'd be nice if you could show me like the script, some sort of script way of seeing what's happening, what's coming up in my show. So we built that in as another cool output as well. So a way of grabbing content from one of the columns and then displaying that within my rundown, which is a pretty handy thing to have. And this is a good time for my internet to start acting up. We'll see if that works. Let me see if I can bring it up on the old, what do you call it? The docs. I can just show it to you on there. Actually, that's a good thing to chat about, because we did talk about the output configuration a second ago. And there are lots of options on the output configuration, all listed in the documentation, so you can actually, build this output the way you want to build it yourself. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I'll see the sort of generic output that I saw there, and then I see all the other options that can be used, and some of the configuration variables that come with them. So that way I can jump in, I can see, what do I need to know in order to add these by myself, because it's not something that you necessarily would know to do by yourself. So, that's a look at that. Now I'm jumping in to my internet and see the documentation's working just fine. So why isn't this working? I do not know. Doesn't matter. I'll fix it later. Yeah, so that's a look at that. All right, what do we have next on my list? That's the output configuration. Do I have any last bits and bobs that I want to go through? Let me just look into YouTube, see if it's complaining about my internet. No, it's not. Good. Good. Cool. Mark here saying, I've made a lot of use of Dashmaster 2K modules for my venue screens. Okay, cool. I want to hear what you've used them for, what purposes, how that's helped your streams, because Dashmaster is one of those strange and fun tools that we built a while ago. Me and Lucas, who's also working on this. I'm just bringing Dashmaster up here so we can have a look at it. He's also working on this Rundown Studio, and the two of us built this weird little tool that lets you throw all sorts of dashboardy type things together. If you're not familiar, it's a fun thing to play with. I think my internet, the stream is hurting me from bringing anything up online, which is nice. Anyway, if you haven't played with Dashmaster 2K, you can feel free to check that out in the I think I link it under many of these videos, and I've made videos about it too in the past. So yeah, I appreciate you using it. All right, I hope you enjoyed my little run through the new features of Rundown Studio that's been added in the last it's been like 7 months since I made that video, which is crazy how fast the time has went past. I'm just setting up my end credits to make sure they're all working as I expect them to. Yes, they are good. But yeah, this has been fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to keep on doing these, monthly live streams. I used to do it weekly back in the day, but became quite a piece of work to do it every single week. So I've been quite enjoying just the monthly check-ins, see how everybody's doing, and then from there I can I can do my own thing, and I can focus on just talking about one main thing a month instead of a bunch of random little bits and bobs. Oh, my internet's just decided to work again, which is always good. Yeah, it was acting so strange there. I don't know why. Yeah. Alrighty. Where are my credits at? Let me go find my credits again. I just clicked away. And thanks a bunch for watching along, as always. Thanks to the supreme supporters of the channel too. We have Jeremy, we have Revolution Lightboards, Martin, Cloud Bedrock as well, Jim, and you for chatting in the chat. Nice to have you here. I will go very gently to this countdown music. Say goodbye. Thank you, bye.